Living for God. Very interesting theme. When you are in a relationship, you are not living for yourself anymore, but for this other side that makes you who you are now.
And Peter's approach to a Christian lifestyle was expressed in much more practical terms if, for example, compared with Paul's, which appeared to be a little bit more philosophical. His letters were more about how to apply what we know in practice. And in this lesson, we continue with exploring the kind of life that the Christians should have lived after they were baptized.
My baptism was about 25 years ago, but I remember like it was yesterday, sitting a little after and thinking, now what? I can't continue the same way. Things doesn't change overnight, but we have committed to something different, and our lives should reflect that.
The lesson starts with Peter listing a few characteristics of a true Christian. What are they? Christians are one-minded, sympathetic, loving one another, compassionate, and humble. And definitely, I'm sure Peter have witnessed those attributes manifested in Jesus' life before anything we say. Peter has also experienced the upper room phenomenon of unity, something that was so scarce among the disciples in the preceding 3.5 years, where they just fought for dominance between each other. The unity must have left such an eternal impact on him, and it formulated his idea and vision of what community really is. And again, what we see is Peter just reminding us of what Jesus revealed to live a better life, to be a better person through his sermons and his life of sacrifice. And to a big extent, unfortunately, this is in big contrast with what the world around is. So to be a Christian will be difficult, and there will be friction in this world.
Let me repeat that. One-minded, sympathetic, loving one another, compassionate and humble. Wow, if we could only grasp that. One-minded, not that we all think the same, but to realize that we are being saved from the same disaster, that we have experienced the same grace, that we have the same best friend, that we have engaged in the same life-changing adventure, that we are on the same mission. To be sympathetic to each other's suffering, to share the joy, to love one another, and to be involved in helping each other. Compassion, to be concerned for what the others are going through. To have humility, and for our ego to fade away. We should put these words of Peter on a visible place and remind ourselves about this every day.
And the nature of this world is sinful. As Christians, we will collide with this sinful nature of the world on a daily basis. It's inevitable. Peter reminds us in chapter 3, verse 21, that through Christ in baptism, we have our sins forgiven. However, it doesn't change the nature of things around us. Then in chapter 4, verse 1, he talks about suffering in the flesh that puts an end to sin in our personal experience. And in verse 2, Peter explains what it means to be suffering in the flesh, namely, not living our lives for evil human desires, but rather for the will of God. What Peter does is diminishing the importance of the suffering experience in the flesh due to sacrifices, and he uplifts the spiritual blessings and the reward that we can gain in life with God. The struggle with sin is worth going through, says Peter, in exchange for life with Christ.
Please read the verses in 1 Peter chapter 3, the second half and beginning of chapter 4. Read it slowly and think. Peter says some very deep stuff. Remember, Jesus bore the suffering for our sins. Through baptism, we are taking part of His victory. There will be a backlash. Satan isn't happy, but 1 Peter 4:1. Therefore, since Christ suffered in his body, arm yourself with the same attitude, because whoever suffers in the body is done with sin. With sin, we don't die or get born without pain. We are getting done with sin. Arm yourself with this attitude.
If change has happened in our life, it will be out there, it will be visible, and our friends will notice that. Somehow our commitment to God in baptism affects the whole spectrum of our life. And as Peter says, your friends will be surprised that you do not join them in their reckless and wild living. Peter was very much aware of the change and the process of transformation that every Christian, every follower of Christ was going through. And he was connecting with his reader, those he wrote to, on that common base for the purpose to encourage them to live life for God, not for sin.
Our transformed lives are the best witness without preaching. Not because we have become so great, but because of what is being done for us. I am living for God now. My flesh, my desires, my weaknesses, my ambitions, my obsessions, I live by different values now. It's not about me. It's about God and I. It's about God, you and I. It's about us, empowered by what He is doing for us.
Peter continues his thoughts and reminds us that the end of all things is near. And of course, for him, the apostles and the Christians who lived in the first century, they expected it's going to be in their lifetime, although there was no clear instructions that Jesus will come then. Regardless of time, just the knowledge and the understanding of the followers of Christ that God will come and put an end to sin was a starting point of their motivation in choosing a Christian lifestyle, something that Peter worked hard to encourage in them. So, how do you live? What kind of lifestyle do you choose when knowing that God will put an end to sin and evil? And at the end, the apostle touches on us restricting ourselves from sexual immorality, from drunkenness, and encourages us to be more hospitable and above all, to find a way to love each other.
To find a way to love each other. I doubt that we can really do that. He actually says, above all, love each other deeply. Only God can produce such love in us. Peter also urges us to use everything that we have to serve each other. This is what living for God is about. Peter is not done yet though. Join us next week for a lesson focused on suffering for Christ.